When I found out this would be the first all-electric vehicle I'd be driving ever in my life, I was excited. The 2024 Kia EV9 GT is a 3-row SUV that runs fully on batteries. But here in Canada, we have a love-hate relationship with EVs. We love the fact they don't use gas, but with limited charging stations and shorter ranges in the extreme cold we get on the prairies here in particular, I was a bit apprehensive about what the EV reality would be like. I'll admit I have some concerns and preconceptions going in. Having never driven an EV before, I feel like it will constantly need charging and attention, and like it might be slow with no pickup, and that every time I leave the house, I'm going to have charging anxiety. So what will the reality be like? I had the opportunity to spend 2 weeks with this Kia on loan to me from the brand. In this review, I'm going to try it out in my day-to-day life, take it on a short road trip, and I'll take a look at all of the features inside, plus the tech. I'll wrap the review with the pros and the cons and let you know what I think, and if the ideas I have about this vehicle are truth or myth. Now, a quick word about how I'm going to do this review. I'm not going to get deep into things like horsepower and torque, and if you're looking for the nitty-gritty on the specs, you're not going to find that here, partly because that's all stuff you can get from Kia's website. I'm approaching this review as an average car shopper, someone who's interested in a comfortable but peppy ride, how the main features actually work in practice, and what it feels like to drive. So in a nutshell, this is a car review for real people, not gearheads, by a real person. Let's put the pedal to the metal and get an overview of the SUV. This is the Kia EV9 GT with 3 rows of seating in captain's chairs format for the first 2 rows and a side-by-side bench seat at the rear. There's seating for 6 plus a small 20 cubic foot cargo area at the back. In this model, the seats have a motorized folding option using buttons in the cargo area, and when the 3rd row is laid flat, they give you about double the amount of cargo space, but you can also drop the 2nd row from here too, and while the floor surface kind of has its gaps, it is massive and you could probably move furniture easily in here. Getting into the rear is made easy by motorized folding and forward sliding. Sitting in each of the rows is also surprisingly roomy and comfortable, even the back row. It's actually a decent amount of room back here in the 3rd row, as long as you've left the seats in front of you pushed up enough to give yourself a bit of leg room. It's actually not bad. Better for smaller humans than full-grown adults, but not bad. Let's get to the front for cockpit details on the EV9. With no drivetrain, the front cabin is so roomy and there's a lot of storage, from a floor pan, ideal for a purse or briefcase, to side door storage and lots of console space. Speaking of the console, there's also lots of adjustable cup holders and plenty of open and closed storage, both in the front and for those who are along for the ride. Let's get the EV9 turned on and running here so we can see what's in the pilot seat, and there is plenty to interest a tech YouTuber like me. The good news is a lot of the smarts in this vehicle actually seem useful too. The start button is kind of hidden almost underneath and behind the steering wheel, and the wheel itself, by the way, is kind of a squoval shape, which was weird at first, but now I like. With it powered up, you can see the info screen panel fills the entire dashboard as one large screen. In front of the driver is your key info like speed, mileage, and battery range. To the right is the infotainment screen with access to your media, radio, Apple CarPlay. There's also a built-in navigation system, or you can use what's on your phone if you prefer. Already, I'm impressed with the finishing in here. The vehicle looks really high-end in this trim package, not just thanks to the tech, but also because of the dual huge sunroofs with shades, the leather seating throughout, and the beautiful color-changing LED lighting that lines most of the interior. When it comes to staying connected, there's all kinds of ways. USB-C connections in the dash and a wireless charging pad in a nice natural place in the console, partially under the armrest where it shouldn't distract you. And there's also power connections in the back and the very rear cargo area too. And speaking of tech in this vehicle, there's a rear view camera, which lets you switch to a camera view of what's behind you in case the rear window is blocked, or just flip it to use the mirror. Being an EV, it operates completely silently, which is one of the first things I noticed, this being my first EV and all. The vehicle is really easy to drive and handles well, a lot like a much smaller car. I told you earlier I'm not convinced an EV can have as much power as I'd want, so I'm about to give this one a test. Wow, It's got really good pickup. I'm actually very surprised by how much get up it has. Like just a gentle press on the accelerator and it's shooting ahead like really fast. I gotta say, I was not expecting this. Husband Roger and I decided to hit the road for the Rockies and drive to Canmore, Alberta to really get a feel for the EV9. Along the way, I got a few surprises. The first was how quiet the vehicle is. Even at highway speed with no audio to distract me, I felt zero road noise bleeding in. Next was the heads-up display. It's simple but effective, having basic info like speed right in front of your eyes. You can even adjust the placement on the windshield to a small degree too. There's lane keeping assist, which lets you take your hands off the steering wheel because the Kia keeps you in the center of your lane at all times, as long as it can see the lines on either side of the road. It's kind of freaky letting your EV steer for you, especially with oncoming traffic, but it worked so well and made the hour-long drive from Calgary far less taxing. This is definitely a feature I'm going to make sure is in any future car of mine. It's activated with the push of a single button on the wheel, so it's easy to use or disengage, and a small light on the dash confirms it's in operation. There's also highway driving assist too, which helps maintain a set distance and speed from the vehicle ahead, and it'll even help you with lane changes on the highway while helping to keep your vehicle centered in the lane. After about 45 minutes, I got another surprise. The vehicle has something called Smart Posture Care and Lumbar Stabilization, and this kicks in on longer drives after about 30 or 60 minutes. It kind of kneads your body and adjusts your body position slightly to keep you from aches, cramps, or fatigue. You're not getting Pilates level stretch here, but just enough movement to keep you from getting stiff or bored. I also really liked this feature, and I found that it really did help break up the drive. Other comforts include motorized adjustable leg rests, which stretch out to give you a bit of respite from sitting fully upright. This is actually huge and so comfortable, making long drives much more relaxing. Surprisingly and rather cleverly, the driver has the ability to adjust the passenger front seat from the cockpit, so no need to reach around or get out. Speaking of seat comfort, I have to call out the headrests. These are padded with soft foam, making them really comfy to lean into, not like pretty much every other headrest, which is basically a fabric-wrapped brick. Lastly, on the seats, there's both seat heaters and cooling on the GT model, and I used both throughout the time I had the vehicle, and they worked really well. Taking the Kia EV9 out on the mountain roads made for a comfortable drive, and there was plenty of room for me, Roger, and camping gear too. Admittedly, I was a little bit paranoid about bringing this camping with us, since as a complete newbie to electric vehicles, I was concerned about how much range and time I'd have on the battery, with charging not likely to be close at hand. Fortunately, though, the Kia EV9 can be charged in a few ways, and helpfully for my wilderness excursion, off basic household 15-amp service, so I was able to plug it in right at our campsite. I've never plugged in an EV before, so this was all new to me. The cables for the SUV are under the hood, which Kia actually calls the front trunk, which looks a lot different than your standard gas car. But figuring this out is ultra easy even for someone like me who's never seen the equipment. Plug the larger end into the side of the vehicle, and the charging port is located on the passenger side by the rear light. It has a pressure-sensitive door that will open when you press it. With that securely connected, just plug the other end into your power source. Charging started. It was out there I really noticed how absolutely glacial household power is when it comes to charging an electric vehicle. I kept it plugged in for a few hours, and it really only increased the battery life by a couple percent. So if you don't have any other charging options in your home, you will definitely need to know that a full recharge is going to take a lot of time. In this case, the vehicle will tell you that information on the screen, and at that point it was almost 75 hours for me to a full recharge. And that's where getting to a charging station comes in. If, like me, you're new to all of this, there are 3 levels of charging. Level 1 is the lowest, and it comes from plugging your car into a regular wall outlet. This only gets you about 5 to 9 kilometers of driving range per hour of charging. When I had the Kia plugged in my garage with about 40% battery remaining, the recharging time was at about 75 hours at that speed. Yep, that means it's going to take literally days to recharge your vehicle to a full battery. I have to say that was rather shocking and surprising for me. Again, as a new person to electric vehicles, I don't think I had an appreciation for how absolutely slow a simple household plug-in is going to be. Now, to get a faster charging experience, you'll want to seek out a level 2 or a level 3 charger. I downloaded the Flow and Ivy apps to help me find nearby charging stations. Another new adventure for me was figuring out what the cost of a power-up would be. Level 2 chargers can be found in places like parking lots or similar, and they can add way more range, from about 20 to 40 kilometers per hour of charging time. Even so, a full charge would still take about 7 or 8 hours. Now, a level 3 charger is also called DC fast charging. This is the highest tier of electric vehicle charging, and it can add up to about 300 kilometers of range in just 1 hour. The truth is, high-speed chargers are a lot harder to find, but they are worth seeking out if you need the maximum amount of charge in the fastest time. With a level 3 charger, you can go from 10% battery to 80% in under 25 minutes. In terms of cost, using the level 3 charger was $20 an hour, and to get from about 80% to full would take me just over half an hour. So a full charge from 0 to 100 should cost me somewhere in the $50 range at a station. While I charged, I got to know the EV9 a bit better. The SUV can be unlocked and started with a smartphone using what's called Digital Key 2. To use this, you'll need to download the Kia Connect app for your smartphone and register your information and subscribe to the service. There's also a fingerprint sensor on the center console that I hoped would allow me to activate the vehicle just with my thumbprint. Turns out this instead lets me save different driver profile information to the vehicle and then access it quickly with a fingerprint tap. Now might also be a good time to touch on the remote car entry. The parallelogram-shaped key fobs are chunky, but they boast way more remote buttons than a lot of keys I've seen, including lock and unlock, rear lift and front hood opening, and the ability to access some of the futuristic parking controls, whether you're in the car or outside it. Remote Smart Parking Assist is kind of an interesting feature that I really had to wrap my head around. Essentially, it lets you get out of the vehicle and then maneuver it into a parking space from outside. I wasn't quite sure why anyone would want to do this, but I suppose if you're forced to park in a very narrow area that doesn't allow you to easily open the doors to get in or out, this would be ideal. You'll engage the Smart Parking Assist button and then take the key fob out of the vehicle with you. You can simply roll the vehicle forward or backwards, or turn on the automation and let the Kia take care of making more intense parking maneuvers for you. You can also stay inside the vehicle, take your hands off the wheel, and let the Kia do all the parking and decision-making for you. I'm going to show you how this remote smart parking assistant works. So I'm in an empty parking lot because I'm going to admit that the first couple of times I tried this, I was way too paranoid and thought it was getting way too close to cars. And I didn't want to have any kind of accident, so I came here to a completely empty parking lot. So what I'm going to do is pull out and we'll start looking for parking spaces. So I push and hold the parking assist button, and I'm going to get a message on the dash screen here. To confirm, push and hold, and then you can see it says searching for parking spaces. So I can move slowly forward, and it's going to identify any spots that it sees. So you can hear that little sound. It's identified one over here on the right. And if I want to confirm that, I'll press it, and then I'll tell it whether I want to get out of the vehicle and do this remotely by remote control, or whether I want to be inside the vehicle. And I'll stay inside here. Next thing to do, take hands off the steering wheel, push and hold the parking button, and I've got to release the brake pedal. So the only thing I'm doing here, my foot is just relaxed down on the floor well. I'm not touching the wheel, you can see, and we're going all on our own here. Now I do have to keep this parking assist button held down the whole time to complete the parking process. Maybe that is a bit tedious, but I get it's a safety feature. You can see there's a parking bollard here. And the first couple of times I did this, I was a bit concerned that we were getting too close to that. You can hear the vehicles picking up that obstacle, but it stops at the right point, says parking is completed, and it puts it into park for me, so I can release the button here and the vehicle's parked. Now, the thing I will point out is that this takes an awfully long time. Yeah, it takes a couple of minutes. I think I could park a lot faster on my own. So this is probably for someone who is just really not confident with their parking, would rather have that automatic assistance. But I think for the rest of us, might be a cool technology feature, but not really worth the investment in time. We're almost ready to wrap here, and I want to come back to some of the thoughts about EVs I had in my head at the beginning. The first two concerns I had were that an EV would require constant attention and constant charging. And the truth about that is that it all depends on how much you drive. While I did take a short road trip of about 200 kilometers round trip, I had more than enough battery to get me there, back, and then some. The rest of my driving was short trips in the city and around my neighborhood. So did I end up with charging anxiety? In truth, I did not. But with that said, I would be extremely apprehensive about taking a fully electric vehicle on a longer road trip, both because I'd be worried about recharging, and I don't think I would enjoy having to stop for long periods of time to recharge and to stress about finding a vacant high-speed charger. I like to get where I'm going and get on with my day, and I really feel like the lengthy recharging periods would be extremely limiting to how much travel I can enjoy. Even so, I will commit to one day taking a fully electric vehicle on a much longer road trip, and if you guys have any ideas about where I should go or what vehicle it should be in, make sure you tell me about it in the comments. The last concern I had was about the vehicle being wimpy, and I have to say this is where I was most shocked about the reality. There is so much pickup in the EV9, and it was amazing for passing quickly or those times when I needed to make more zealous driving maneuvers. Overall, I have to say I really enjoyed my time with the Kia EV9 GT. Let's go over my experience with the SUV and its pros and cons. On the pro side, this is a vehicle that's packed with tech. It's fast, comfortable, and has plenty of nice touches and finishes, like the wide dual sunroof, leather seating, plenty of storage, and charging, as well as easy seat adjustments. The seating is supremely comfortable and boasts a lot of extras like the leg rests and padded headrests. Plus, with a rear view camera and eye-filling infotainment screen, your trip info is easy to see. There's plenty of space for passengers and cargo too. It's also got lots of safety features like the very effective lane keeping assist, highway driving help, and even side cameras that pop on when you indicate a turn. And the parking features are ideal for less confident drivers. So what are the downsides? I've got to admit that finding fault with a brand new car can be a bit tough. With all the shiny new features, it's easy to be dazzled by all the toys. I did find the parking assist features to be kind of slow to execute, but I also don't really see that there's a way around that. It just might be something to be aware of for practicality's sake. I also kept forgetting to turn the vehicle off just because it makes no engine sound, but that's no fault of Kia. Similarly, the only other big complaint I could really make has nothing to do with the Kia EV9, and that's that recharging at home with a household plug-in takes forever, literally days. So if you're getting ready to invest in an electric vehicle, I would definitely say you should also put aside some of your budget for a higher speed charging option at home if you can. In short, I've had a great experience with my first electric vehicle and my first Kia, and I can definitely recommend the Kia EV9 GT for you. If you want to learn more about in-car technology, you can take a look at my review of Alexa Auto or check out some other new cars I've had the opportunity to review right now.